Hi, this is Morten. I'm doing my first YouTube video before, so I've never done this before, so you be kind in the comments if you're watching this. This is a tier list of the heroes in Civilization 6. The reason I'm making this list is because I've been watching a lot of these famous YouTubers who play Civilization making those lists, and it's not really updated, and they're not really like, they just made those lists quite early, so you don't really see how they evolved. You can read the stats and everything, but when you start playing with them, you understand the more mechanics, game mechanics, how they work. So I would try to make a complete list from bottom to top of the heroes as we can pick in this game. I think there is one thing is important to remember when you pick heroes is you can only get 2 to 4 heroes in each game. I mean, you can get more if you're lucky, but on Deity it's pretty hard to get more than 3. I say 2 is the more like standard if you're playing against an aggressive AI who grabs all the heroes. So you should try to aim for 2 or 3. That's why it's important to pick the one who fits your strategies. So I'm going to go over every one of them, and this is the overall, like how they worth in total. There might be different opinions depending on the situation, meaning you play like a military one or you're playing a peaceful one, peaceful game. So there might be differences in how they should be used, but in general, this is my top list of every heroes. So we start at the bottom, and we start with Maori. Now this is a bit like controversial because a lot of people think he is good, but I think he's one of the worst, definitely one of the worst. And the reason for that is because he is too RNG. He doesn't really give you anything. He just contribute to giving you a bit bonus resources or luxury resources. You don't really know what you get, and you don't really know what luxury resources you get as well. I thought he will be really good with the Monopolies game mode, but he tends to be like mediocre. I mean, it's better to just go to war and grab some resources if you really want something. So I feel he is he's very weak. You only use him if you have purchased all the heroes that you can and you really just want one extra. What I think you can do to improve him, I think you can improve him by just letting him be a worker. If the Civ, the Francis game, they just made him as a worker where he can travel across the sea right after you discovered how workers can go out to sea, so shipbuilding. They can access the sea tiles, but that because then you can use him as an early scout in water, which will make him really good, especially early age. So it might be worth going for him just to take those goodie huts if you're playing an archipelago game. So he doesn't have that, but that will improve him a lot. The other one will be to increase his amount of resources he can generate, or you can choose a different type of resources. You can choose if you want a bonus resource or if you want a luxury resource. I think it could be different charges and stuff. It's a bit complex, I guess, but he needs a bit rework to be able to use him effectively. So I'm going for the next one, and the next one is not really surprising. It's usually on the bottom of everyone's list, and that's Arthur. Arthur, he's not that bad. I mean, I have been using him a few times where he have been really useful to me, but compared to rest of the heroes, he's pretty bad. The main problem he have is that the Crusader he gets are too short-lived. They only have them in 10 turns. And while you can do a lot of pillaging, you can capture a lot of city with them, it's not really worth it. I mean, you have to waste 4 units just to get it because they're gone afterwards, they're used. And that doesn't really makes up for him. I think it's pretty bad. So I would really put him way beyond on the tire list because of he doesn't have any usefulness with his investment. You don't get that much back in what you give to him. If you're only going to use him as a like emergency hero or something, he doesn't really give that opportunity as well because it takes time to convert those units. So he's like a very mixed hero. You really don't know where to go with them. You should probably stick with some other if you have the options. But still, if you're going for militaristic and preferably using a lot of cavalries, so you get like a lot of bonuses for cavalry. I think it could be a good choice. So you should keep in mind, even if it's bottom, you can. There are scenarios where he works. It could be one way to increase his usefulness will be to give him more charges, or give them the one who he increases longer life, or you can keep like the units afterwards, but they turn back to normal or something, and they can keep like the level they got. Perhaps it's really, there is a lot of reworks need to be done with them to be making more viable. The next one barely made this out of this D tier. I'm tempted just to throw her down to D tier, and I'm talking about Oya, because she works as a healer, not a damage dealer where more people think, because she is very frail. You can't really put him into a center of a cluster of enemies and just throw out the storms which you're getting. It's really hard because he's easily targeted and just dies quite fast. For being a hero, she's very frail. So the thing you should use her as, you should think as a support unit who stands by and just heal up your units once you are like low, so you can keep pushing if you're going for like rushing in for a capital or something. That makes her a bit more useful than Arthur and Maori. So I'm going to put her on C tier because of that, but she doesn't really give you to that much. I mean, there's very easy to just keep the units healing or harvesting if you're going to attack, so it's not really useful. There are other heroes that have way more uses than her. I think she will be a little bit better in specifically cluster fights in multiplayer games, because it's so hard to just take away your units and let them survive if people can rush you over. So I think she can be better in multiplayer games, but on single player Deity, I put her on the bottom of this tier list for sure. So the next one is going to be again a bit controversial. It's going to be Mulan, and Mulan is a pretty good hero. I would actually rate her higher, but there is a problem. All the other heroes are so good. So I think she is standing on this B tier quite good. I mean, it's just, she's not a C tier, she's not an A tier, she's just middle. So she can work as a really good long-term solution for attacking someone. You can use her as a defensive unit if you have kind of control, but you're not really certain. You can buy her, and over the time she will become so deadly that she works like an artillery and can take down cities on her own, or the city walls and everything. So she's pretty good. She has a bit problem because she is a hero, so she will eventually die, and she doesn't really have any way to keep those experiences, because that's what you want when you have bombards and stuff. You don't want them to die, you want them to keep up so you can upgrade them later on. But since she's a hero, she doesn't really work that well with that, and she doesn't really do anything that much, so it's so insane. It's really hard to control, meaning you have to have a specific scenario where she works. The timing have to be correctly to use her effectively. So I think she is a very solid B tier, but she's not really higher than that. But she is definitely not lower than that as well. I think there is some way to improve her. She could be a bit more powerful when you recruit her or something. And I don't really know. I've been trying to go for her a few times when I was rushed, and it doesn't really help. If you get rushed early game, she's not the hero you can do to defend yourself. So the other one who I feel is a B tier civ is, yeah, this is going to be again a bit controversial, because a lot of these people are higher on the list, but I'm going to take first here Beowulf. And Beowulf is a good hero. I totally agree he's a good hero. But he's mostly used as on a defense. He's not really a good offensive character. He's very good in combination with other heroes, and he's a really good hero deleter, meaning he can delete other heroes. So and he can also delete vampires, meaning making him a really good like specific hero for a specific task. But he doesn't really do anything that much when it comes to dealing out damage. That's the only thing he can do. He can only deal out damage, but he can't really do anything beside that. I mean, you have other heroes who can contribute a lot more to your economy or something, but Beowulf, he doesn't really do that. He just deletes them, and that's it. And that can work very well, but it doesn't really work well in combination with so many units. I mean, it can work well with one other hero, but if you have multiple heroes, it might like you want to convert them or something. So I would put Beowulf on B tier. He doesn't really have the strength to go higher. He doesn't have the strength to go lower, but he can still be a very viable pick because he's so easy to find a way for him. If you're getting rushed on the early game, he is pretty good, a perfect extreme defender. You won't lose with when you have him. Uh, I think that's the best thing about Beowulf. You can't really lose with him if you have him on your team. It's very hard to deal him, take you down. But the AI is not that good with him, so it doesn't really matter if you give them Beowulf because they won't use him as at maximum. They will just rush him out, and you can just instantly finish him down with some artillery or some archers and everything. So yeah, all range units. So yeah, he's kind of weak when given to the AI, but the AI is kind of weak with everyone. You shouldn't be focusing on them. So we go to the A tier, I guess, and the A tier we have a bit again controversial. These are a bit more above average, where I think B is like perfect balanced and A is more like we're starting to reach this godhood term. So we're first going to start with the lowest on this list is Sun Wukong, and Sun Wukong, he on many other lists I see him on the top, and I agree he's a pretty good submarine on land where you can like harvest fights, but I don't have any problem harvesting or pillaging enemy resources if I'm at war with someone. It's like typical. You just go in from city to city, you just harvest or pillage every resources, and you leave. You can use him on something if you go on emergency war or something. You can just use him, send him over, let him kill something, pillage and everything, and then move out. There is one problem with this tactic, and that is when he's all alone, the AI tend to move the units all over the town, all the time. So it's very easy he gets spotted, and multiple times have I used him, and you lose him right away because he doesn't have any that much defense. You can harvest or pillage some farms so you get back health or something, and that's okay. But if you're caught in the wrong spot because they build the city state or the districts just straight out of the city, so you have to stand close. They also usually have walls in every town and everything, so you're getting really hurt if they spot you. That's why I feel like you have to be very careful with him, and that's why I feel like he is lower tier. The next one is on this list, I would say not lower tier, but it's not higher. I mean, so the next one we have, that's Sinbad, and Sinbad, he can be really powerful, but he's very falling off in every age. I mean, he's falling off every age once you've done and used him one time. He's pretty good early game because you can scout the entire sea. So if you play on Archipelago map, he is pretty valuable. I would see him as higher on high water maps. But on low water maps or medium water maps, he's not really that much insane. Because yeah, you can get a lot of money from him by discovering like continents and stuff. But you should always explore with every unit you have all the time. So unless there is ocean between you, you don't really have any benefit from picking him besides some gold you get. You should not like maximize his effect by discovering continents with only him or wonders with only him just because you get some money from him. And then you have the charges where you can get more money from pillaging units or something and naval battles. He is very frail. He can easily lose to barbarians, especially on Deity if they already ram out a lot of boats. So you should be really careful with him. And that limits his usefulness because you have to go back to your main town to heal up because he's a boat. And that makes him very hard to use when it comes to like using all his charges. It's a lot of times I play this game, I'm just going all out for trying to spend all his charges. But sometimes he just dies before his usefulness. He doesn't get to use all his charges before he's dead. You have to find the barbarian encampments as well. So I feel he is he is kind of weaker, and also in the barbarian mode, I feel he's also weaker from there, since he can't just harvest or pillage some barbarian encampment like he could before. So I think he is one of the lowest in A tier, but he's still an A tier hero. The next one on this list is the Twin. I don't want to pronounce the main name on this guy because it's I don't really know how to pronounce it, but we call it a Twin. And the Twin is very good. I think he's close to S. The only way that makes him a bit lower than S tier is because he's very situational. It depends if you're going warfare or you're going just playing normally. You can use him on two things you can use him on. You can use him as to get an army, just turning their army against them and then start the rebounds, or you can make him as just farming from barbarians. Because one of the things you can do, you can get barbarians to spawn to attack you, and he can just take all the units. They just spawn a new unit, he just takes them. Because he's standing inside his own border, he can heal up quite nice every time. You just need a few archers around him, and you can take a lot of army. And that's a pretty good strategy, especially early game, where you don't have any army. He can easily be just built, and you can use him as a hero who gain those army for you without any, like, if you can use levying or something of city states, but this time you get those hero or these units. It's yours, so they don't return to your enemies or to your city states, whatever you levy, if you levy city states so units. So that makes him really good hero in Civilization 6. I feel like he could be put even higher, but like I said, there is like a lot of special scenarios you need to take into effect to use him, and he doesn't really contribute a lot in the late game. He can deal a lot of damage, of course, but it's really hard to use him as he is so slow and he's just a melee character. You want in the late game you have tanks and everything, so I feel like he's just useless there, and but he's pretty good in the early game. So we are moving up to the S tier, and there is one who is very controversial. I always put them at S like top, but I've been experiencing a bit around with this hero, and I found that it just barely made this S tier. I think it deserved to be an A, but it can also be an S, and that's Hercules. Hercules is a very good hero. He can, before I was like amazed of everything he could do. He can instantly build a district just on turn 1, and that's very powerful. It's very useful to resurrect every age. You can use him again and again, and he's still as useful as you want them. The only reason I put him in S and not A, I feel like he is, because I'm going to comment to his downsides, but the only reason I put him in S is because it's very useful to building those scientific, like those rocket stations, spaceship stations. That's like his main his main game, just building them across your empire, because they're so expensive to build, and he can just instantly build them, making him very viable. And he's also very good building up civilization from scratch, especially civilization who wants to go for fate, where it takes a lot of time to buy like all those districts, but he can just instantly build them, making it really fast, and you can go for settler or something instead of going for building that district, and you can build a settler instead, and you can build another district there. So you can easily get a religion by using him early, and he's also very good in fighting as well. I mean, he's not like the twin level, but he's still capable of defending himself. So you can use him as defense after you're done with his worker charge. You can use him as like a defense, making him pretty good. I think he is a really top tier hero, but he does have some drawbacks. And one of the things is he only have 3 charges to build districts, and you can basically do the same with chopping. I mean, yeah, you can't, but let's take it. See, it takes 30 turns to build that district, because even if it stands 100, the city will grow and you will have more production. So it will go down to around 30 or something turns in the worst case. So if it's, say you have like, it takes 30 turns to build 3 districts because you have 3 cities, and you can build them instantly. you can save a lot of production, and a lot of you gain a lot of more of you can gain more science. You can gain more depending whatever civilization or whatever district you're using. You can save a lot of those, but still, I feel like he's not really there, as you can shop instead with builders. And I think that's a way more reliable way to just build districts in cities that doesn't have any production. Even if you can just send Magnus over to that city, and you can just shop, and you can shop out districts faster than you can do, and more reliable than you can do with Hercules. That makes him a bit less useful. He's still pretty good because you can save those shops for other stuff like wonders and other districts perhaps, but still, I feel like that's what puts him from the SS and keeps him in S, but all the other bonuses keeps him from A. So he's a pretty strong hero. Yeah. The next one we're going for is Hippolyta. She is, I want to put her higher because she is absolutely my favorite hero in all of this tier list. She is so strong, and you can use her from early age to late game, and she is never stopping up. She is the best. She has the best ability in the entire game, where you can give one extra unit, one extra charge every turn as long as she is alive. So every turn you can use it just to give that worker, no, not a worker, but give that bombers or artillery or plane or whatever. You can use it as you want to pillage more. You can just send in someone to pillage, and you can escape with them afterwards, perhaps. Or you can pillage extra with units. She is so perfect, and she also heal 10 plus in each turn, making her a very good siege unit where you can just stand in front, standing together with perhaps a like you have the catapults or the trebuchet or the bombers artillery behind, and she can stand in front taking down the hits and still like putting siege on that city. And she can also like help attacking. She deals a lot of damage when she attacks. She attacks mostly directly on the city, not the walls. So as long as the walls are down, or if the walls are up, she still deal a decent damage. But if the walls are down, she can help quite a lot taking down a city, making her very good from early age to taking down anyone, and making her very good late game. I would like to put her higher in S. The only thing that makes the other one so much more powerful is the reason I stay on S tier. So I'm just going to keep her because we have two more, and one of these are going to the SS tier, and of course you all know who that's going to be, because that's going to be, of course, not Anansi. Anansi is a very good S tier hero, and I'm going to explain why. He is perfect in the Monopoly mode. You don't really want to go for Maori, like gaining more stuff. Like I said, you can just with Maori you can just you can earn more resources, but he can make sure that you get that Monopoly. Let's say you are on a continent where you have like 3 resources and the other enemy have 2, and you can't really do anything about it because you only have 3, so you will never get Monopoly because they have like 2 of those resources. But you can just walk him over to the enemy and just remove that resources, and you can get that Monopoly because they're gone. He's also perfect in doing so, just to harvest, to get science and culture, making him very reliable and way better than Hercules. Let's say if you going to build with Hercules those 30 turns, and instead you use Anansi to just to gain those like the bonus that you get from that campus or something that will be lower than what you get from Anansi over these 30 turns that it takes to build a district, if it takes that long. But still, Anansi is absolutely godlike, and there's always resources to be harvested. I mean, you don't have to take resources if you don't want to take resources from the enemy because you're going to capture them or something. You can just use them out on the sea where it's a ton of resources just laying around you will never access because it's the middle of the sea, or in the coast or somewhere yeah, yeah, around some island you never want to settle anyway. So he's perfect for that option. Yeah, and that leaves us with the last hero, which is Himiko. Himiko is absolutely godlike. She is so perfect, and she can be used in any game. Like she should be a top choice in any games as your first hero of choice if you're going to win. If you're looking for a victory, just a direct victory, you're just going to win in Deity, you go for Himiko. She is godlike. You gain so much charges where you can spend on levying units if you want a war, so you can levy units with a city state. Afterwards, you gain to follow them. It can be like a strategic one who is between you and the enemy, so you can use that as a meat shield, or you can just go to someone else, so you can get like spread out their army because they have to defend on two fronts. So you can levy those units, or you can just gain a lot of city support. If you don't want to go to war, you can just gain a lot of city states. And city states, those bonuses are insane. City states are the easiest way to win. If you're going for being city state friendly and getting a lot of city states, you are absolutely going to win the late game. No question. There's so many great cards there as well. And all those charges gives you so much bonus. There is I mean, if you're playing on multiplayer, I would perhaps put it a bit lower, because the multiplayer games, they tend to just destroy city states if someone is behind them. But you can take like city states that are around your capital or around your borders, so they can't defend them, or they can't attack. That would be like a really good solution, just to defend those city states from falling. But I would still like pick other heroes if I'm playing multiplayer. But on single player Deity, she is absolutely godlike. So there is a few things I forgot to mention about one of these heroes, or few heroes. We have Maori. He has two things he can do as well. I didn't mention, and one of those things, he can be a really good scout for finding those resources, if you're strategic resources, because you can't build a charge on an like a unimproved or unowned tile where there is a strategic resources beneath. If there is a strategic resource beneath, he will not be able to use his charge. I mean, you can like with elimination method, you can find out what resources is below there, but you can also like try, if you really need to have something like placed there, you can put like down a district there before it spawns, so you can use that tile for a district improvement instead of wasting it for like a resources who comes up. It might be something good, but it can be like very vital when you build an empire where you're going to make a very good cluster of districts, because you're going to get a lot of adjacency bonuses. Like say you are Japan, or you are playing as Germany perhaps. It can be good for that purpose, just to scout out. The other thing I forgot to mention is the resource bonus he can give can also be given to harbors, placing around where you want to place harbors, because you can get a really good adjacency to those harbors and getting a lot of production with like shipyard afterwards. So he can be better in some scenarios, but he's still like kind of weak. So that was just mentioning quick with him. I think this is the tier list I would go for. There is perhaps some adjustment who is better and who is worse, and it differs of course if you're going for domination victory, there's of course a different list. If you're going for a peaceful game, there is a different list. But this is a general assumption how you should pick heroes is. I would always try to aim for going for Himiko first. The second one I would try to be, if this is going to be a peaceful game, I would try to go for either Anansi or going for Hercules. If this is going to be aggressive game, I'm going to go for Hippolyta. And perhaps afterwards there I go for the twin if it's a domination victory. It might depend if I go for Sinbad, if I want more gold. If I want super defender, I can use him, like Beowulf. If I want, yeah, I can use Mulan as well with her. It's pretty good like combination. I think Hippolyta works in very well in combination with others, especially the twin, because you can capture so many with them. You can just give him an extra charge, and you can capture the next one as well. So you can be really effective with him. But in peaceful game, you might want to go for Himiko, you want to go for Hercules, you want to go for Anansi, or you can stop one of them. You can use like if you're going for a semi-decent peaceful game, you can use Son Wukong just to send him over. But I would try to avoid these last here. Like the Maori doesn't really give you anything in value in terms of what you spend on him, and the same go for Arthur. You don't really get any bonuses in long term. You don't get anything from Oyo as well. She's more as a support unit, not really strong, not really weak, or she is kind of weak, but she's not like that weak like Arthur and Maori. It might be I saying this name wrong. I might mix them up, but yeah, I think that's it. This is a tier list I would say is the at current date is the strongest one in Civilization 6. So yeah, take care now.